My stepfather sold my dog while I was away. So I bought the shelter and took every pet. Emma slammed her suitcase shut, the echo bouncing off the empty walls of the house she thought was her safe place. The quiet streets of Portland stretched out beneath the fading orange sky, the scent of pine thick in the evening air. She waited, her heart hammering, for Max, her golden retriever, to come bounding around the corner like he always did. But there was nothing. No bark. No wagging tail. No happy chaos. Her stepfather, Jim, was leaning against the porch rail, his face unreadable beneath the faint glow of the porch light. Emma's voice cracked as she asked, "Where's Max?" He shrugged like it was nothing. "I sold him." She blinked. The words hit her gut like a cold, sharp knife. "You what? Without telling me?" Jim's eyes flickered away, hiding something worse than guilt. He was getting too much trouble. You weren't around to take care of him. Trouble? Max? No way. Emma's hands trembled as the lump in her throat stopped her from yelling, crying, or even moving. The night swallowed her whole, the familiar scent now a mocking ghost in the wind. That's when she remembered the flyer she'd tossed on the kitchen counter weeks ago. The one for the Rainier Animal Rescue, a cramped little place tucked behind overgrown blackberry bushes where all the dogs and cats who lost their homes waited, hoping someone would rescue them again. Emma grabbed it like a lifeline. Inside that rundown building, amidst peeling paint and buzzing fluorescent lights, Emma found a rumor. Max had been there. She confronted the manager, a tired woman named Claire, who barely looked up from a tower of paperwork. "We don't sell them off like that," Claire said, eyebrow raised. "But sometimes folks bring pets there." "Well, some deals go under the table." Emma's jaw tightened. Someone in the shadows was hiding more than just sold puppies. Her mind raced. She had to save Max. But how? She was just a 16-year-old with a part-time job at the bakery and a pile of schoolwork waiting. Then the wild idea hit like a lightning bolt. Buy the shelter. Own the place where Max was hidden, where countless scared animals waited. It was madness. Impossible. But the fire inside her burned too fiercely to stop. So, with a shaky signature and a heart full of defiance, Emma said yes to the deal that would change everything. The shelter smelled of damp fur and hope. Inside, she met jittery volunteers who whispered of strange deliveries and quiet disappearances. Each rescued pet's eyes told stories of fear and survival. Emma's hands shook as she held Max's empty leash, the one she brought from home, stiff and cold in her trembling grip. That night, the shelter was silent, except for the soft breathing of animals and the eerie creak of old wood settling. Emma stared into the dark corners, wondering what secrets hid in the shadows. Jim's betrayal wasn't just about Max. Something deeper, darker was buried beneath their broken family. She felt the weight crushing her chest, the desperate question hanging heavy in the icy air. What had Jim truly sold? And would owning this shelter be enough to bring Max back and maybe, somehow, stitch her fractured world together again? Hey, before we continue with this incredible story, I need to give you an important warning. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube removed their subscriptions without warning. Just take a quick look at the red button below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I don't want you to miss any exclusive content that... Emma's fingers trembled as she ran them over the chipped counter, the cold, peeling paint scratching against her skin like tiny knives. Around her, the shelter was swallowed by an uneasy silence, only broken by the soft, shuffled paws and restless breathing of animals waiting behind their cages. She stared into the shadows, the weight inside her chest growing heavier, tighter. She needed to find Max. Now, Claire had slipped away after their talk, but Emma could still hear the murmurs of volunteers in the back rooms, a low buzz of voices, hushed and urgent. Something wasn't right here, no matter how many times she tried to tell herself otherwise. Suddenly, a loud crash shattered the quiet. Emma jumped. Her heart slammed so hard she thought it might break through her ribs. A sharp scream cut through the air, brittle and terrified, followed by hurried footsteps. Emma bolted toward the noise. In the dim light of one of the side rooms, she found Claire clutching a broken cage door. But Emma's eyes caught the real horror. On the floor, a small pile of papers smeared with dark red stains. Blood. Emma's throat tightened until it was nearly impossible to breathe. "What happened?" she whispered, frozen in place, staring at the mess. Claire's eyes darted away, full of something fierce, panic and shame. "You should have never come here." "What do you mean? Who's hurt?" Emma's voice cracked, inching closer to the papers, hands shaking violently. Claire swallowed hard, then pulled Emma back roughly. Her voice dropped low, urgent. "This shelter, it's not just a refuge, it's a front. Jim's been using it to cover up things no one should ever know about." Emma's head snapped up. "Jim? My stepdad? What are you talking about?" Claire's gaze darkened. "It's about the pets he sold. You think it's just about money or trouble? No, Emma. Some of those pets never made it to new homes. They ended up somewhere else." Emma felt like she'd been punched in the gut. "What do you mean? Where?" Before Claire could answer, the back door burst open. Jim stood there, flushed and wild-eyed, his hands trembling. Behind him, 2 police officers pushed inside, their expressions grave. Emma's stomach flipped. What's going on?" One officer held up a phone showing photographs. Emma gasped aloud. The pictures revealed a locked garage, filled with cramped cages and sick animals. Some barely alive, some worse. Wires, broken equipment, needles scattered around. The images burned into Emma's mind like a nightmare she couldn't wake from. "Jim," the officer said coldly, "we've been investigating for weeks. Reports came in about stolen animals, illegal experiments. You're under arrest for animal cruelty and trafficking." Jim's face crumpled, but then twisted into something terrible, dark and cold. He looked at Emma, eyes flashing. "You think I sold Max for money? That dog was a mistake. But he was never just a dog." Emma's breath caught. "What do you mean?" "I wasn't selling pets," Jim said, voice hard as ice. "I was selling secrets. Max isn't just a dog. He's the key." Her heart hammered so fast she could barely hear. "Key to what?" Jim's lips curled into a cruel smile as police handcuffed him. "You'll find out soon enough, Emma. When they come looking for Max." Before she could respond, Jim was dragged away, leaving a silence heavier than any she'd known. Emma sank to the floor, her hands clutching the empty leash like a lifeline slipping away. Outside, the wind howled against the shelter's cracked windows. Somewhere in the darkness, Max was out there, but not just as her pet. He was part of something darker, messier. And now everything she thought she knew was falling apart. Emma pressed her forehead against the cold bars of a cage nearby, whispering desperately, "Where are you, Max? What did he do to you?" The shelter held its breath, waiting, and so did Emma, stranded between hope and horror, knowing the real nightmare was just beginning. Emma pressed her forehead against the cold bars of a nearby cage, whispering desperately, "Where are you, Max? What did he do to you?" The shelter felt like a ticking bomb, each heartbeat echoing louder than the last. Outside, The wind howled like a wounded animal, deepening the sense of dread. Suddenly, a crash burst through the front door. Emma's heart leapt into her throat as she turned to see a shadow dart past the entryway. It was a figure, cloaked in darkness, moving with intent. "Hey!" she called, a mixture of panic and confusion rising in her chest. But before she could clear her racing thoughts, the figure lunged forward into the back room, where the commotion had started. Emma hesitated for barely a second before chasing after. Emerging into the dim room with Claire, she gasped as the intruder turned, her eyes widening in shock. It was Mia, her childhood friend, the one person who understood her love for animals, the one person she'd confided in about Max. But now, Mia's eyes glowed with a wild urgency that terrified Emma. "Mia?" she breathed, clutching the empty leash tighter. "What are you doing here?" Mia's breath came in frantic bursts. "Emma, you need to listen. I found something. Something I should have told you before." The crazy feeling in Emma's stomach twisted tighter. "What do you mean? The shelter? Jim?" Mia stepped closer, eyes darting to the scattered papers and the broken cage. "It's about your stepdad. I overheard him talking to someone, talking about experiments." Emma shook her head in disbelief. "What kind of experiments? What are you saying?" "Not just pets, Emma. They're doing something horrible. It's about more than just money." Before Mia could finish, the lights flickered and then went out, plunging them into darkness. Emma's breath quickened. The cold seeped around her, suffocating. Scratches of light from the street filtered in through the windows, casting eerie shapes. "Yeah," Emma whispered, panic fluttering in her chest. Then she heard a noise, a low growl coming from behind one of the cages. Her heart slammed violently. "Mia, stay close," she murmured, inching toward the sound. As she moved, a figure lurked just beyond the shadows. Emma squinted, and her breath caught. It was Max. His golden fur gleamed in the dim light, but he was different. Eyes wild, teeth bared, a primal fear emanating from him. "Max," she called, but he didn't respond. Instead, he growled, low and threatening. Emma's mind raced. Why is he acting like this? Suddenly, from the back room, Claire screamed, "Emma, get out now!" The urgency in her voice cut like glass. Emma turned to sprint back when a roar erupted from the floor above, shaking the very walls of the shelter. "Run!" Mia screamed, dragging Emma back, but it was too late. The ceiling above buckled, splintering and cracking as dust and debris rained down. A hatch flung open, and with it came a flood of blinding light and a sound Emma couldn't describe. A mix of howls and cries, engulfing everything. In that moment of chaos, Emma saw something dart through the beam of light. It was a cage, flying toward her as if it had a mind of its own, rolling and tumbling. Emma's heart dropped. Then she saw it. Inside, a bundle of fur. Another dog, bleached white, tense and ready to strike. It wasn't just Max. It was a whole line of animals, all in cages. But their eyes were not just scared. They held something much darker. As the uproar intensified, Emma felt a surge of truth hit her hard. "Mia, what's going on?" she cried as the ground trembled beneath them. At that moment, the shelter's old wiring sparked to life. The lights flickered back on, revealing the horror of the scene, the caged animals, the chaos, and in the middle of it all, a set of gleaming eyes that seemed to watch her, calculating. And then she realized Max wasn't just a dog. He was part of something unthinkable, something that reached far beyond anything she had imagined. "Emma!" Mia shouted, pulling her from the shattered moment. But Emma was frozen, caught between the urgent need to save Max and the sickening knowledge that everything she believed was built on lies. Outside, rain began to pour, washing away the last remnants of the sun. But inside, the storm was just beginning. "Emma, please!" Mia shook her violently. But Emma's thoughts spiraled, consumed by the realization. They had opened a door to a nightmare, and she stood at the center of it, powerless to escape. Then, without warning, an alarm blared throughout the shelter, a deafening sound, slicing through the air like a knife. Emma's heart raced as she exchanged glances with Mia, the weight of fate heavy in the air. What had they truly stumbled into? And as the alarm screamed, she knew the real terror was just beginning. Emma's heart pounded in her chest, each thud like a countdown to disaster. The alarm wailed, drowning out everything. She felt the room close in, walls bending with the weight of terror. "Mia, we have to go!" she shouted, grabbing Mia's arm as the cacophony echoed. "No, we can't leave without Max," Mia replied, her eyes wide with desperation. But Emma could hear the chaos unraveling. It felt like the world outside was breaking apart. Shouts and barking erupted from the entrance as the police moved through the front. She pushed toward the room, adrenaline pumping, teeth clenched, willing Max to be there, waiting for her, like he always had. But he wasn't. The cages loomed like ghosts, empty but for the growing shadows of anxiety. The growls got louder. Emma turned back to Max, still snarling at the far end. He was pacing, wild and frantic. "Max, it's me," she cried, stepping forward. "You have to trust me." But he backed away, a hint of recognition flickering in his eyes, quickly replaced by fear. Emma could feel the panic spiraling. What had they done to him? Had Jim's twisted games changed him? Suddenly, the court light bulbs above flickered again. With each pulse, Emma could see a figure behind Max, emerging from the darkness. A silhouette darted out, literally like smoke, the outline of something massive. "Mia!" "What?" Emma hesitated as a low growl resonated. "Emma, watch out!" But the warning came too late. The figure lunged, and a huge beast crashed into the room. It was a wolf, its fur dark and matted, teeth gleaming. Emma's breath hitched. It looked feral, eyes smoldering with rage. It came for Max, snarling and snapping. "Max, run!" Emma screamed. But in the chaos, it was too late. The wolf lunged for him, teeth just inches away. But Max didn't run. He lunged back, defending himself, fear and instinct taking over. For a moment, they were a blur of fur and teeth, the whole room spinning as they collided. "Mia!" Emma shouted, but her voice was lost in the roar of the battle. She was frozen, watching the horror unfold before her. The wolf's growls were chilling, knife-edge terrifying. It was more than just a fight. It was a reckoning. Then, the alarming sound of clanging metal pierced the chaos. A door at the back of the room opened, revealing dozens of animals, more wolves, dogs, and some that should have never been combined. They flooded into the space, an onslaught that overwhelmed the room. That's when she saw it. A collar wrapped around the wolf's neck, glinting in the dim light. It matched Max's. Her breath caught in her throat. No! The realization hit her like a wall. The wolf was Max's twin, genetically altered. Something designed for a purpose. Maybe it was the reason Jim had sold him. Not for money, not for secrets, but for science. Nia gasped beside her. "Oh God! Emma, what have they done?" Emma felt lightheaded, nerves jangling. She started to step back, her mind racing. "We need to get out now!" But the doors shook as they slammed shut. A booming voice echoed from above, calm and confident, breaking through the chaos. "Stop! Everyone, get back!" The figure stepped into the light, revealing a familiar face. Jim. "No!" Emma was filled with disbelief. "You're supposed to be under arrest?" he interrupted, but there was laughter in his eyes. That was just the beginning, sweet girl. We're not making pets here. We're creating an army. A cacophony of noise erupted as the animals began to shift, an unsettling energy crackling in the air. Emma's world collapsed into chaos. She stared at Jim, the man who she thought she knew, her stepfather, now transformed into something monstrous. "What have you done?" she whispered, feeling the walls close in again. "Hang on, Emma," Mia whispered urgently, drawing her back from the grip of disbelief. "We need a plan." But in that moment, realization swirled like a storm. They weren't just in a shelter. They were at the heart of something horrific, something that went deeper than betrayal. Max was more than just a dog, and Jim was more than just a man. As the beasts built anticipation, Emma felt the ground shift beneath them. They were standing on the edge of something dark, the truth clawing its way to the surface. She gripped Mia's hand tighter, heart racing as the alarms blared on, flooding with an unyielding roar. Suddenly, everything felt fragile, the world around them teetering on the brink. The surrounding doors shook under the weight of something bigger, a truth waiting to be unleashed. But what lay behind that truth, now clear and looming? Emma took a shaky breath. There was no turning back. As the alarms shrieked like angry sirens, Emma's heart raced faster than she thought possible. Sweat dripped down her temples as she faced the chaos unfolding around her. The shadows danced wildly, bodies shifting and snarling in the tension-filled air, and she could feel panic swirling in her chest. "Mia!" Emma grabbed her friend, urgency coating her voice. "We have to find a way out of here." The oppressive weight of uncertainty pressed down on them, each second feeling like an eternity. But Mia's gaze darted, filled with fear and a glimmer of something else, determination. "Emma, we can't leave Max behind. Max is in trouble, and we can't stay here." The words slipped out, bare and raw. Emma's mind fought to hold on to logic. "He's not himself. We need to find another way." As the growling intensified, Emma caught sight of the massive wolf, now poised to strike again. Its eyes glinted with a feral hunger, and Emma's breath hitched. "Back, Max!" she yelled, willing him to retreat. But he was trapped in a primal dance of survival. A sudden crash echoed from the back, shattering the tension. It was Claire bursting through the door, panic radiating off her. "You have to leave! Now!" But before Emma could respond, the lights flickered and went completely dark. The room dropped into a suffocating blackness, her heartbeat the only sound. Panic flipped in her stomach. "Claire?" That's when it happened. A thunderous roar ripped through the shelter, shaking the walls like a ragged breath. A loud crash split the darkness, and beams of light flooded in, illuminating chaos unlike anything Emma had ever known. It wasn't just the dogs. No. There were cages filled with all sorts of animals, mutated, snarling creatures that had once been pets and now looked like nightmares. They broke free, a wave of fur and claws rushing forward, mixing with Max's frantic barks. "Mia, we need to move," Emma yelled, gripping her friend's hand. But Mia stood frozen, eyes wide, mouth forming words that went unspoken. That's when the center of the chaos shifted. Emma's heart lurched as a tall figure loomed in the doorway, the silhouette of a man with a confident stance. It was Jim, his expression twisted into a menacing grin, his eyes glinting in the frantic light. "Look at what we've built," he exclaimed, his voice booming, full of pride. Emma felt her world turn upside down. "What is going on?" she demanded, bewildered. "You're supposed to be stopped." Jim laughed, a chilling sound. "You think it was just for money? For pets? No, my dear, this is bigger than you can imagine. An empire built on something far greater. What do you mean? But just then, another shadow swept in, and Emma's chest tightened. It was a woman, fierce and confident, stepping into the light beside Jim. Her face was a blend of familiarity and dread. Emma's breath caught. Mom? It was impossible. Yet there she was, Emma's mother, Emma's heart breaking anew. What are you doing here? Emma, her mother said softly, stepping forward, eyes filled with an intensity that made the air hum. It's time you knew the truth. The scene grew silent, everyone frozen, every breath held, as Emma struggled to wrap her mind around the nightmare unfolding before her. In this place, her mother continued, we're not just rescuing animals, we're preparing them for a purpose, a new beginning. Emma felt the floor drop from beneath her. What do you mean? What are you talking about? Each word was a thread unraveling in her mind, snapping the fabric of everything she thought she knew. They're a part of us, Emma, her mother said, voice steady, as if daring her to argue. You were always meant to join us. And just like that, everything shattered. Emma glanced at Mia, who wore an expression of shock that matched her own. Her mother, the woman she thought had protected her, stood alongside Jim. No, you've been lying, Emma shouted, her throat burning. But deep down, a terrifying realization began to settle. They didn't just sell pets, Mia whispered, realization dawning on her. They sold us. They've been experimenting. Before Emma could react, a piercing wail arose as the walls of her world crumbled. Emma stood on the precipice of disbelief. She was caught in an unspeakable web, torn between love and betrayal as everything spiraled out of control. What would she do now? The shelter's chaos roared louder, drowning out everything else. Outside, a storm surged, shaking the very foundation. But within the heart of the conflict, Emma was left with one burning question. What had she truly become a part of? As the chaos roiled around her, Emma felt the world tilt dangerously. The wolf snarled, Max stood rigid, and the air crackled with tension. Jim, looming at the door, grinned like a villain in a storybook, his words slithering through the space like smoke. An empire, he said, eyes sparking with madness. And you, dear Emma, are a key player. What did he mean? Emma's mind raced, disbelief crashing against the storm of feelings inside her. Max's growl echoed through the room, fierce and desperate. She reached for him, but something was wrong. He wasn't the same dog. A fear so sharp it choked her, swelled in her chest. Max! She yelled, but he turned away, caught in some instinct that felt alien. The other animals surged forward, filling the room with noise and panic. Suddenly, Claire lunged past Jim, her voice urgent. Emma, you have to trust me. This isn't what you think. Stop, Jim bellowed, his command slicing through the air. The sheer force of his presence sent a shiver down Emma's spine. She turned to Mia, her friend's face pale, but set with fierce determination. Emma, we can't let him control us. We need to fight. But just as she replied, a sound worse than anything she had heard before ripped through the room. A shriek, piercing and primal, echoing from deeper within the shelter. Then the wall closest to them exploded inward, wood flying like shrapnel as something large barreled through. Emma's eyes widened. A hemmed-in creature burst into the room, a hulking beast unlike any she had ever seen. It was a fusion of different animals, distorted in a way that twisted horror in her gut. What is that? Mia cried, stepping back as the beast stood tall like a nightmare, panting and growling, eyes darting wildly. Jim's laughter turned maniacal. My greatest creation, the final piece of the puzzle, and you didn't even know. That's when it hit Emma. The truth crashed over her, a tidal wave of realization. This was what Jim had been doing. Not just experimenting, but creating something unspeakable, something harvested from fear and violence. And then, amid the chaos, the beast lunged forward, bounding toward Max. Emma's heart raced. "No!" she screamed, stepping in front of Max instinctively. But Max erupted from her side, his eyes fierce and protective. He faced the other creature, muscles taut and ready. Emma's breath hitched. Was he defending her, or had he become part of the same darkness? Suddenly, Claire lunged again, and Emma caught her breath as Claire's face twisted in anguish. "This is what happens when you play with nature," she shouted, pointing at the beast. "We lived in secret. Now they're coming for us." "What do you mean?" Emma shouted, confusion and fear swirling. The sight of the beast sent adrenaline racing through her veins. But before Claire could answer, the shelter shook again. A blast from outside echoed, a deep rumble followed by the sound of sirens blaring, growing closer. "We have to get out!" Mia yelled. Outside, figures emerged. Not just police, but a swarm of people, armed and intent. The shelter doors burst open. Emma's breath caught as she saw more men, clad in dark uniforms, advancing towards them. "Move!" one of them shouted. The world teetered on the brink. The chaos escalated, the air thick with fear and questions. What had Jim done to them? Were they trapped in this nightmare? Then, shocking her to the core, Jim's voice rose above the din. "Emma, it's your choice. Join us, or watch everything you love burn." Every fiber of Emma screamed in protest. But in that moment, something deep inside her clicked. The lines were drawn, and everyone's fate hung in balance. Just as she turned toward the door, a single whisper caressed her thoughts, the kind that changed everything. "Mia, something is hidden inside you. You won't remember." The words flowed through her like ice water, chilling and profound. What did they mean? Emma froze, her heart racing, grappling with the weight of revelation. "Get down!" Mia shouted as the beast lunged. Time skidded to a halt. As the world fell apart, Emma felt her legs go weak. She was caught between a choice, a truth, and the storm of everything she once believed. "Is it true?" Emma whispered to Mia as darkness swallowed them. The sirens blared, and outside, the storm waited. And then, just like that, the lights went out again. The lights flickered, then went completely dark, plunging them into a silence that felt heavier than any air. Emma's heart raced. She could barely breathe. Shadows lurked all around, and she clutched Mia's hand tighter. Where was Max? The air was thick with tension, and the growls from the wolf echoed eerily, mixing with the sound of their racing hearts. "Mia, we can't stay here," Emma whispered, panic rising in her throat. She could almost feel the brush of the beast's wild breath. "Emma, wait!" Mia's voice trembled. "We have to—" But before Mia could finish, another roar broke through the darkness, followed by an unholy screech. It shattered everything. Just then, a blinding light filled the room from the back entrance, illuminating chaos as a figure stepped through the doorway. Emma's breath caught. It was a man, tall and broad-shouldered, clad in a dark coat. At first glance, he looked like a monster, but as the light flickered, recognition hit her like a wave crashing against a shore. "Dad?" The words slipped from her lips before she realized what it meant. Confusion twisted in her gut. Her father? Here? "Emma!" he shouted, eyes darting toward her, filled with fear and urgency. "Get back!" The moment was surreal. She hadn't seen him in years. And yet here he was, standing in the storm of confusion and danger. Mia gasped beside her. "Emma, what's happening?" I don't know." Emma felt the ground shift beneath her again. The tension was so thick, she could taste it. "Why are you here? You shouldn't—" "Listen to me," he interrupted, voice fierce. "Your mother isn't who you think she is." The words pierced through the chaos, sticking in Emma's thoughts like shards of glass. A deep sense of betrayal washed over her. "What do you mean?" "They've been lying to you, Emma. All of this. It's part of a larger plan." He stepped closer, concern flooding his features as the beasts shifted, growling beneath the weight of his revelation. "Stop!" Jim shouted, but the foundation of his control was crumbling. "Do not listen to him." Emma's head spun. The beast lunged closer, but her father stepped in front of her, eyes locked with Jim. "You've taken too far, Jim. This stops now." Then, in one swift movement, his father pulled something from his pocket, a small device. It glowed ominously in the dark, casting eerie shadows around the room. "I'm here to end this." "End what?" Emma's voice trembled as dread seeped into her bones. "What are you talking about?" But before he could respond, the device emitted a deafening pulse. The ground shook violently. The light sputtered brighter, and the creatures howled in outrage. The sudden light revealed everything: cages in chaos, the wolves, and most shocking of all, a gleaming glass chamber hidden behind the beasts. Inside was something grotesque, an amalgamation of fur, teeth, and glimmering eyes, all connected as if they were once a single being. "Emma, those are your siblings." Her father's voice broke, laden with sorrow. "The ones we wanted to save. All of them survived." Shocked silence enveloped her, even as the growls reached a fever pitch. Her heart sank deep into her stomach. Siblings? This changed everything. Before she could gather her thoughts, something abrupt surged from the shadows, a creature unlike anything, powerful and wild. It crashed forward, faster than the eye could blink. "Get down!" Mia screamed, pulling Emma to the ground as the creature broke through. It surged past like a storm, knocking her father to the floor. "No!" Emma's voice broke as she scrambled to her feet, panic flooding through her. The realization crashed over her like a wave. This wasn't just chaos. It was a truth wrapped in horror, and they were caught in the crosshairs. As the alarms blared louder, the glass chamber shattered, sending fragments flying. The scent of blood filled the air, and in that moment everything became clear. Emma's life wasn't what she thought it was. The choice ahead was more dangerous than anything she had faced before. "Mia, we have to get out now," Emma yelled, breathless. But as they sprinted toward the exit, one last horrendous roar echoed behind them. The world behind her felt like it exploded as the twist of betrayal and blood shook the shelter to its core. "Wait!" Her father's voice pierced the air. But Emma was too caught up, her soul now intertwined in a truth far darker than she'd ever imagined. Pain and fear swirled around her. Holding on to Mia, she could feel the boundaries of what she knew shatter like glass. The only certainty was the storm within them, left waiting to unfold. The shriek of the alarms faded into an unsettling silence, the aftermath echoing in Emma's mind. Her father's face loomed in front of her, filled with urgency and desperation. "Emma, listen to me. You can't trust them." "What do you mean?" she pressed, confusion wrapping around her like a shroud. "Why now? Why here?" Her heart pounded in her chest as she glanced at Mia, then back at Jim. Just then, the ground trembled underfoot. A low rumble shook the walls. Emma felt an urge to flee, but something deeper held her there. "It's all a lie!" her father shouted, his voice rising above the chaos. "They've been lying to you about everything. About me, about your mother." "Stop!" Mia shouted, but her voice was swallowed by the rising tide of their fear. Just then, a shattering sound came from behind them, like glass breaking. An unmistakable jolt surged through the room. Emma's throat tightened as she watched Jim's face pale. "No!" he yelled, eyes darting to the glass chamber that had just cracked open. Something inside shifted, a dark mass writhing. "What's happening?" Emma's voice trembled on the edge of panic. The reality felt like it was bending, spiraling out of control. She was on the cusp of every shocking revelation, teetering at the edge. Then, the creature inside the chamber emerged, a twisted, snarling beast. Unlike anything she had ever seen, its eyes glowed eerily, full of rage and pain. The sight made her skin crawl. "Emma!" her father bellowed, desperation breaking through as he pushed her back. "Get away from it!" But instead of retreating, Jim stepped forward, arms raised. "Hold on, everyone!" His voice was commanding, laced with authority. "We don't want to unleash this." In that moment, the air turned thick with confusion. Emma felt a tremor of disbelief course through her. Was Jim trying to protect them? The flicker of doubt made her stomach turn. But before she could process it, the creature lunged forward, sending all of them crashing backward. The floor gave way beneath them. And suddenly, Emma found herself falling into darkness, clawing her way back toward the light. "Not again!" she cried out. But the grip of the unexpected pull dragged her down, pulling Mia and her father along too. And then, everything shattered. The world exploded in a blinding flash, the air heavy with an unsettling silence, pulsing darkness rising from below as the ground twisted and churned beneath them. When the flurry of chaos finally calmed, Emma blinked against the stark light that filtered through, revealing an enormous space, vast and barren. "Where are we?" she gasped, heart racing. As they looked around, the air grew colder, and a dread-filled silence descended. But then a figure materialized from the shadows, someone Emma never expected to see again. Her mother stood there, clothes tattered, eyes wide with disbelief. "Emma!" she breathed, voice shaking, breaking apart as their eyes locked. "Mom?" Emma whispered, disbelief coursing through her veins. "You shouldn't be here. What's going on?" "Everything you believed. It's all connected," her mother replied, anguish flickering behind her eyes. "It was never about just pets. We were protecting you. We needed you to live, all of you, because you're more than you realize." "What do you mean?" The echo of her voice bounced back to her, empty and hollow. She felt a strange warmth creeping in, mingling confusion with fear. "Your father wasn't wrong." Her mother's voice cracked, a shadow of hurt drifting in her gaze. "You have a power that sets you apart from everyone else. We bred you for this." Emma stumbled backward, shock shattering her thoughts. Power? Bred? The truth hung in the air, heavy and horrid. Everything she thought she knew, twisted, warped into something dark and monstrous. Was this all just a game? Were we just experiments? "Yes," her mother said, pain etched in her voice. "But it is so much more. With your abilities, they could control the future. Max and the others, they're not just pets. They're part of a plan, a way to harness power, ones we had to keep safe from Jim." As the weight of the revelations hit her, Emma felt the world tilt again. Her mother wasn't just an estranged figure in her life. She was part of a design, her actions entangled in a web of deception. And in the moment of realization, a rumble shook the space around them again. This time, it came with an unraveling clarity. Their next move mattered more than ever. "Get ready," her mother said, voice tense. "They will come for us." Fear and fury battled within Emma. She felt the pulse of something deeper, awakening inside. The questions burned. What was she meant to do? What lines had been drawn? "The storm," she gasped, heart pounding as the truth tore into the fragile fabric of her reality. "What have you done? What have we become?" And just as she opened her mouth to demand answers, the dark spaces flickered again, shadows shifting menacingly as reality loomed, ready to consume them whole. The world collapsed into unknown, the pieces of their lives hanging in the balance. Emma took a step forward, heart racing, ready to confront whatever was coming, ready to learn the truth about not just herself, but her family as a whole. And as the storm began to rage, the boundaries of who she was became a question that danced dangerously just out of reach. What did it all mean? The air was electric, thick with tension, as Emma stood staring at her mother, emotions swirling in a chaotic storm. What did she mean? And why had all this been hidden? It felt like the ground was shifting beneath her, screaming for answers. Mia clutched her hand. A mix of fear and confusion etched on her face, and Emma could feel every heartbeat pulse through their clasped fingers. "Emma, listen carefully," her mother said, urgency cracking through her voice. "You're not just a part of this, you're the centerpiece. The DNA they used, it's because of your father and me. Emma's mind raced. "What do you mean? What DNA? Why would you—" But before she could finish, the shadows in the dimly lit space stirred. The creature, that monstrous hybrid, let out a screech that sent chills racing down Emma's spine, and her instincts screamed for her to run. "Get back!" her father yelled, rushing toward them, eyes wide and desperate. The urgency in his voice was sharp, slicing through the confusion. Suddenly, the ground shook again, and cracks snaked down the walls, revealing a deep darkness behind them. The air crackled with static, electric energy charging all around. Emma felt terror spike through her. Then, in the midst of all the chaos, something extraordinary happened. A blinding light erupted from her mother. "Emma, hold on!" her mother shouted, radiant energy swirling around her as the beams shot toward the creature. It recoiled, growling in confusion. The glow grew brighter, and for a moment Emma felt warmth wash over her. It felt like power, like protection, but it also stirred fear in her heart. "Mom, stop!" she cried, feeling her world tilt. What was happening? The light grew brighter, illuminating the room entirely. Emma caught her breath as the creature writhed, caught in the glow. Her mother's face mixed determination with something else, something Emma couldn't quite place. It was almost feral, driven by instinct. Then, from across the room, Jin laughed. The sound was cold and hollow, echoing against the stone walls like a cruel mockery. "You really think this will work? You've only fed the beast with your pathetic power." In that moment, everything snapped into place. "Mom!" Emma shouted. "What are you doing?" But it was too late. The creature surged forward again, charging towards them, eyes glowing like molten lava. The air crackled with energy, as if the entire world held its breath. Emma felt the pull of fear grip her throat. But just as it lunged, everything changed. In a shocking twist, the creature stopped, its growl faltering as a shimmery barrier formed between it and Emma's family. The creature recoiled, and suddenly it started to shimmer, shifting. The mix of fur began to fade, revealing a figure trapped inside. "No," Emma gasped, stepping forward as recognition hit her like cold water. "What?" The light subsided, revealing a face Emma hadn't seen in years, the face of a little girl. Her sister, lost and thought to be gone forever, stood there trembling in the glowing remnants of the creature. Emma felt her heart stop. "Isabel?" she whispered, breathless. "Is it really you?" The others gasped as Isabel looked at Emma, tears streaming down her cheeks. "Help me, please," she cried, her voice breaking raw with fear. "Isabel!" Emma dashed forward, heart racing, constricted with disbelief. In that moment, everything changed. The blurring lines of the trail and family spun out of focus. The warm light of hope clashed violently with the cold, hard truth of what had been happening. Before Emma could reach her, the shimmering barrier abruptly flickered, and with one final shattering scream, the hybrid creature collapsed completely, creating a swirling black void around them. "Emma!" her mother cried, desperation lulling her voice. "We need to leave, now." But everything felt awash in shock, every thought tethered by the impossible reality. Is this a game? Are we just more experiments? Emma's voice trembled on the edge of a breaking scream. The darkness pooled around them, an abyss that threatened to consume. Then the world around Emma started to unravel, edges fraying as the enormity of secrets laid bare threatened to swallow her whole. "Mia," Emma's voice cracked. The storm inside her screamed for answers. She reached for the only thing she knew, the truth. But as the shadows closed in, a chilling realization dawned. Everything she loved, every choice made, had it all been part of a scheme too grand to comprehend? And as the darkness surged, one thought remained. Would they even survive to find out? The darkness closed in, a heavy blanket that made it hard to breathe. Emma's heart raced as she struggled to grasp what was happening. Isabel stood there, her little sister, lost to time. But shock twisted through her like icy fingers, snatching at the warmth of hope. "Isabel," she breathed, voice trembling. Maybe this was the spark she needed. Maybe they could get away from all the wrong, from the lies. But as she reached out, her sister's face twisted in fear. "Help me, Emma! They're coming!" Isabel cried, her eyes wide and pleading. "Who's coming?" Emma demanded, panic crawling up her spine. The walls felt like they were closing in, shadows creeping closer, the noise of the collapsing place rising. Suddenly, the air shifted, charged with tension. The dim light flickered, casting monstrous shadows on the walls. The ground shook again, this time harder than before. Emma grabbed Mia's hand, squeezing tightly, desperation blooming in her chest. "Run!" Her father shouted, backing toward the exit, but Isabel remained frozen, rooted to the spot. Without thinking, Emma sprinted toward her sister, reaching for her. "Isabel, come on!" Just as she grasped her sister's hand, the ground beneath them split apart with a loud crack, sending a fissure racing toward Jim. "No, you can't take her," he roared, eyes wild, scrambling back. "Why not? She's my sister!" Emma shouted, her voice raw with fear. But just then, a blinding light erupted from the crack, cascading over them in a shocking wave of energy. Emma squinted as the light pierced the darkness, blinding her for a moment. And then it hit hard, like a punch to the gut. Isabel screamed. Emma turned, the sound burning into her ears. She caught a glimpse of the ground swallowing Isabel, darkness reaching for her sister, pulling her down into a void. "No!" Emma cried out, lunging forward. But it was too late. The light twisted again, and with a deafening echo, Isabel was gone, vanished into the darkness as though she had never existed. Emma staggered back, breathless, heart hammering in her chest. "Me, Mom!" she stammered, shock rattling her voice. But her mother stood frozen, anguish haunting her features, eyes wide in horror. "Isabel?" she cried, voice breaking, and Emma stood anchored in disbelief. But that wasn't the worst part. Emma felt it like a whisper brushing against her skin. "No, it can't be," she murmured, fear tightening around her throat. And then, in one unexpected moment, Jim smiled, a twisted smirk that echoed something sinister. "Did you really think I was just a bad stepdad?" he sneered. "No, sweet girl, you're all part of the plan." Every piece of the puzzle clicked, sending shards of shock through Emma. "What plan? What have you done?" "I took the best of your family." "You think they were here to protect you?" "No, they were keeping you in the dark." "You are the key, Emma. The key to everything. And now—" "Now?" Emma pressed, breath catching again, her heart racing. She was teetering on the edge of something horrifying. "Now you will understand your true purpose." Suddenly, the air vibrated around her. Emma felt it, the power inside her surging, awakening. And not just in her. A wave of energy pulsed through the room, and in an instant, she realized it wasn't just her. No, it was Isabel, too. Something stirred deep within her, a connection she had never felt before. A bond beyond life, beyond everything. Isabel was still there. "Now you must choose," Jim's voice shattered the moment, dark and raw. "Join me, let the power flow through you, or lose everyone you love." Terror seized Emma, but in that chaotic heartbeat, she felt the spark. Isabel was alive inside her. And with that knowledge, something shifted. "No!" she shouted, the walls reverberating with her defiance. "I won't be part of this madness." Just as the shadows began to close in again, a blinding light burst through the darkness, illuminating everything. And in that searing clarity, she saw it, the truth, as if it were painted in glowing letters across a dark canvas. Mia's shocked expression mirrored her own, disbelief palpable. The room trembled, the foundation breaking apart, and Emma felt the solid ground shatter beneath her. "Stay with me, Emma! Fight it!" Mia screamed as Jim's laughter twisted around them like smoke. And everything fell apart. As the darkness swallowed the light, Emma realized this battle was just beginning.